company called Pinger. We're a mobile messaging service, kind of, if you've ever heard of Skype or WhatsApp or Kik or Line or KakaoTalk or any of these guys. We were the first people in the US to start doing free messaging. We still are the largest in the US doing it. We don't have a large international presence, but we've had over 100 million downloads in the US. We're ad supported, and I run our ad sales, and so today I'm going to talk a little bit about native advertising, specifically as it relates to mobile. So mobile can be kind of niche-y. Native advertising is certainly niche-y, and the combination of the two is just barely starting to get some steam. So, if some of it's over your head, I'm going to try to start broad and then narrow down, give a couple examples, and then how you can leverage it a little bit more broadly than going and finding every single one.
Strike.
Yeah.
Those little guys are up to it again, aren't they?
Yeah. It's good weather going here.
All right, and some of these slides have a bunch of stats on it because I was trying to be educational, but you don't have to look at them to read them if I don't have them all in memory. So to kind of start it out, what is native advertising? So I get a lot of RFPs, proposals that are talking about going beyond the banner. We've all seen banner advertising, right? We want something more. We want a more intimate experience. We want something that gives us information that we can connect with. That's the promise of native, and a lot of times it comes in the form of sponsored content or promoted content. There's good ways of doing that, and there's bad ways of doing it, and the way in which you engage with it will pretty much determine your success. So most of the time, it's an attempt to make an advertisement look like it's part of the experience that you're viewing, be that a mobile application or a website. It's usually very flexible and customizable. Each program will have a little bit of a different flavor to it. It's sometimes written by the site itself. We have a lot of experience writing for brands that don't have an in-house creative team that can go and do all these custom executions. But usually we do it with them, utilizing their copywriters and media planners to make sure that we're striking the right tone. And that's generally how a lot of it is done in the direct space today. So why is it so good? It's viewed much more frequently, almost 60% more frequently. If you take that and extend it to mobile, there's an additional 50% lift in click-through rates. There's higher purchase intent. It's more likely to be shared. A lot of times these things, if you see BuzzFeed on Facebook, that's forms of native advertising a lot. A lot of it is image heavy. There's stories associated with it. So it's much more likely to get you earned media on top of the paid media that you're doing. And it's a growing area. So native ad spending is going to be up 29% this year. It's going to be almost $6 billion in spend by 2017, which is going to be versus, it's going to be almost, or a little over 4.5 versus 6.5 of just traditional media. And then as it relates to mobile, I think we've all probably understood and heard that mobile is growing at a blistering pace, and it's outpacing estimates every year. And so the combination of both of those, there's a lot of money going into it. And one of the best examples of that is Facebook. So they make more than half of their revenue now on mobile. All of that mobile ad revenue is coming from native. So you've all seen sponsored stories on Facebook, I'm sure. That's a form of native advertising. It's probably the one that everybody immediately recognizes. And they're doing almost $1.5 billion a quarter on mobile native advertising. A lot of it coming from app downloads, but there's a lot of websites being promoted. Local services are starting to get in the mix these days. These types of ads get 49 times more engagement than the ads that they would run on the sidebar on their web property. So it's really been effective for them, and that's why they're making so much money with it. Another one, as I mentioned before, is BuzzFeed. Typically, their ads are in that top right placement, and then if you scroll down, you'll see more within that feed. Their audience is really the 18 to 34, which is obviously a key demographic for most advertisers. They've done a lot of case studies. You can find them on their website there. But Taco Bell found in one of the most recent case studies that they released that users who engaged with that advertising were almost 200% more likely to say that they were going to try that new menu item. A lot of them shared it on Facebook. They got their earned media there. So this stuff really is working for a lot of large publishers. ESPN is another one. I took all of these screenshots on my phone today, so I didn't even pull these off the web. You can find these in the apps that you probably have on your phone. So Coors Light, right? Here's some soccer news from earlier today. They have facts about Tony Gwynn, who just passed away recently, but they keep copywriters in-house at ESPN who are writing these facts and engaging with people. You'll probably see World Cup statistics as the games continue there. They've been doing this for a long time. I mean, how many brands have been sponsoring segments on the Super Bowl or wherever for how many years? They've just transferred that over to digital, and now it's considered native advertising when you put it in the right context. Another one that's just recently been announced is Pinterest. Their CPMs are $30 to $40, which are huge for mobile. I'm sure a lot of you guys in some of the AdTech here would never pay $30 to $40, but that's how much it goes for on Pinterest. They're asking for upfront commitments of almost $2 million, and the partners that they're launching with are ABC Family, Old Navy. There's tons of them, but it's all the biggest brands are trying to get on that craze because a lot of people are spending a lot of time in that application. They're looking for useful content and articles, and a lot of these brands will have fashion tips like you see on the picture on the right, and it's something that gives people value, they can easily engage with, and the advertiser can promote their product. One in the messaging space is Tango. So they have a similar model as Facebook and Twitter. They launched their advertising with a company called Meetup at the end of last year. Most of what they're doing is driving suggested app downloads. A lot of mobile advertising is app downloads. That's where Facebook's making the bulk of its money. They're in-stream. They have a couple of different units that they do. This one is in the messages stream, but they have them in a news feed with larger creative, and they're starting to make a decent amount of revenue there. Snapchat, again, they just hired a high-powered ad sales guy from CBS. They're building out their sales team. Taco Bell has started experimenting with them. I know McDonald's has as well. It's a unique way and a new way for brands to engage with these audiences. What we're doing is we're a messaging app, so we can send messages. This is an example from a proposal we did for Disney. We can send text messages from characters, from spokespeople, from brands. We can send videos, multimedia. We can create stories. Our click-through rates, generally, the mobile click-through rates are, between 0.5% and 0.6%. Our click-through rates are now $40, 40%, and we're selling these at CPMs of $25. So how is it accessed? How can you guys really get to it? We've started to do some programmatic native, and a lot of people are trying to figure out how to do it. So I had a quote from a guy from IBM that said they would love to do native if only they knew how. Most of the guys that I showed you can only really access direct. A lot of the premium publishers are moving to have native platforms, especially on mobile. They are producing this content in-house, but the way that it can be simplified is through programmatic. So just like we've all probably heard of a lot of programmatic engines, programmatic native seems like they're conflicting ideologies, but they're really not. There's companies that are figuring out a way that they're taking these diverse set of publishers and the way that they need to take assets and deliver them to the public, going out to the agencies and asking them, hey, here's 15 different types of creative that we need in order to give you 50 publishers on native. And they're bringing all of that to life. They're consolidating both parties and providing platforms to measure results across a number of different publishers. A couple of people that are doing that really effectively, this is one called Triple Lift. They're still small, but they're starting to get a lot of heavy investment. Multi-platform, very image-heavy. They work with a lot of major advertisers. There's another one called Nativo. They're a little bit more story-based, so websites that have a lot of content, news sites. They take a bunch of different assets, compile them in different ways, and allow users to engage with that sponsored content. MoPub, as I mentioned, they're the engine behind the Tango guys that launched their native. Twitter bought MoPub. They're expanding their native offering to go beyond just app downloads. Now they're taking advantage of the brands that are also on Twitter, so you can connect to that platform. They have RTB, they're programmatic, they can take the assets and push them out to publishers as well. So again, this is really a somewhat of a niche, but it's a lot of buzzwords coming together. It's mobile, it's programmatic, it's native, but it's really, really effective, and the statistics are proving that out. It's changing rapidly. We had a conversation earlier about how quickly digital is developing and mobile is scaling. All of these things are coming together and figuring themselves out very quickly with all the technology providers behind them. Investment from venture capitalists to the agencies themselves are buying up these companies, investing in these companies. The large advertising conglomerates are forming their own native programmatic platforms. So there's a lot of eyeballs moving in this direction. And so for anybody in AdTech around here, taking advantage of these behaviors is going to get better results for you. It's going to make you look good in front of your clients, I guarantee it. And you're going to keep ahead of the curve and keep your team innovative. So that's pretty much it. If there's any questions.
Yeah, so